taking the screen here, guys, and then we're gonna get through it. It's trying to share. It's trying to share. It's trying to share. It's trying to share. There we go. Okay, cool. So, good morning, guys. How's everybody doing today? Andrew here. This is your Bitcoin and crypto news for 3/21/2018. Throughout the course of the day, I spend a lot of time on YouTube, and I would say I spend about an hour a day on YouTube on cryptos. And for the most part, most of it's garbage. There's nothing really of value. But I did listen to one guy I respected yesterday on YouTube, and basically what he said, and if you think about it, it logically makes sense. So whenever I'm thinking about trading, it doesn't make sense. He basically said there's a lot of cryptos that have really good news to talk about their cryptocurrencies and their blockchain technology. Unfortunately, but the market is in such a downward trend, there's really no reason to come out with positive news. And that makes a lot of sense. You know, like if we are in 2008 and everything's crumbling and a company comes out with positive news, it's really not going to affect the stock price, right? And the goal of the cryptos is to make it move higher, right? So why would they come up with positive news when we're in a downward trend? So you might start to see a bunch of cryptos, if the market goes higher, come up with this positive news, okay? Everything is correlated, okay? And when you're looking at charts on TradingView, you can look at everything versus BTC, or you can look at stuff versus the US dollar. So this is kind of how I look at the market here, okay? If you look, and you know, I've been trading full-time for, I think, what year are we in, 18? So I think I started in 03. So I've been trading full-time for about 15 years. And I look at it like this. Bitcoin is the S&P 500 futures, okay? So let's say the S&P 500 futures is down 5 points today. If you have a basket of 20 random stocks, okay? So if you're long the S&P, let's say, okay, so the S&P is down 525 today. If you pick 20 random stocks, there's 8,700 publicly traded companies. If you pick 20 of these 8,700 publicly traded companies, just randomly out of a hat, put everything together and just pick it out, there is a better than not chance that these are going to be down if the futures are down. Okay, this is very similar to the way of the cryptocurrency space. Bitcoin runs the show or the train. Yes, there'll be some times when there's correlation out of whack. You know, the futures could be down 5.25. You could have 20 stocks and you could have 14 of them up and 6 down. But there's a direct correlation. So if you look at the cryptocurrency space, Bitcoin runs the train. As Bitcoin goes lower, everything goes lower. As Bitcoin goes higher, everything goes higher, as a generalization. So I don't even need to look at my cryptos. I know most likely when I run this, my portfolio better be up overnight. If it's not up overnight, I'm gonna be a little bit mad because we see the cryptocurrency space. So when I come in here and I look at cryptocurrencies, the first thing I look at is how many there are. Okay, 1,569. As you see this number go higher, okay? So we talk about it, and when I talk about it on my sessions, I talk about 3 main times. There's currencies, okay? Currencies are Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, IOTA is kind of a currency, Zcash, Monero, Dash. There's platforms. Platforms are EOS, Ethereum, Neo. Then I call them, there's blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is a Golem, is a, what else the other one I was just thinking about? I just had another one. AGI, that's blockchain technology. So these are the 3 major ones. The reason that Ethereum, okay, has underperformed Bitcoin in the cryptocurrency space, so I made a prediction at the beginning of the year that Ethereum's market cap is going to overtake Bitcoin's market cap. And right now I'm going to be completely wrong. The reason for that is the SEC is going after cryptocurrencies, cryptocurrency hedge funds, and specifically ICOs. So a lot of the bad news is factored in currently in Ethereum, okay? So if there's less ICOs, what does that mean? that means there's less work for Ethereum to do, okay? If Ethereum's the platform where all the ICOs are going to work on, there's less to do, okay? So we see this correlation is now at 3.0. And now we can actually go in there and we can look at charts and compare Ethereum versus Bitcoin, and you'll see Ethereum massively underperforming Bitcoin. What does that mean? That means one of two things. Number one, Ethereum is a screaming buy, and I've seen John McPhee get on Twitter saying Ethereum's such a great buy and how great it is. I've been talking for a long time that I personally don't like Ethereum as much. They have very, very difficult computer language. Most programmers, which I am not, are on C++ or Java. The Ethereum coding language is something that you're going to have to learn from scratch. So that's something just kind of to keep in mind when you're looking at this and when you're trading, kind of thinking about what they do. You know, I'm not a big fundamental guy even when I'm trading, but, you know, think about that. So cryptocurrencies, 1,569. Here's a list of all of them. Circulating supply, the price, market cap. I mean, if you look at Bitcoin, and I talk about Bitcoin running the train, 153 billion, right? If we actually just added these up, so 56, 83, 100, 115, 120, 125, 130, 140, about 150. Bitcoin has the same market cap as basically numbers 2 through 16 combined. Okay? Isn't that crazy to think about? Bitcoin has the same market cap, and this is a rough estimate, as numbers 2 through 16 combined. Okay, that shows how big Bitcoin is. So we'll go back in here. We'll look at the market cap. You know, we got down to that 280 billion, and then we popped. So we got down to 7-day, you know, hodl or trade. Hodl or trade. You gotta say this to yourself every single day when you're in the cryptocurrency space. Am I a trader or a hodler? I have a call with Mark today. Mark, you know, does some trading about a product we're gonna probably launch that spits out buy and sell signals, and that's gonna be for more active trading. So we got this down to about 275 billion. 275, we popped 75 billion. Okay, 75 into 275 is about a 20% gain. Based on technical analysis, I don't think the short-term bottom is in. Okay, there's still a lot of bad news. Me and Mr. S actually almost came out with a hedge fund. I know I've probably talked to some of you guys about it. And then he said, do you like your life? And I'm like, yeah, I love my life. He's like, we shouldn't do a hedge fund. I was like, why? He's like, the thing is, if Bitcoin goes down to 3,000, we're going to get sued up the ass. And we're not getting sued up the ass because we're not, you know, we're not buying a product we don't believe in. It's just how it's going to work. So I said, you know what? You're probably right. So we got rid of it and decided to drop $20,000 on legal fees and not do a hedge fund. But in hindsight, I'm very happy we didn't. So you see this 20% increase from the lows. Okay. Volume, we always look at this. 16 billion, that's more or less in line. And then we see the Bitcoin dominance actually dropping a little bit. Bitcoin dominance down to about 43.7. I think we looked at yesterday is about 44.5. So that when I come in here, I just want to update my portfolio spreadsheet for you guys. I know I am down in cryptos. I haven't really put more money to work in the last couple of days. I wanted to get into H share at 5. I didn't. And let's go in here. Crypto portfolio. So I'm just going to put this over here and let's see how the portfolio is doing. I know I should be up a little bit. You know, how much I'm actually up, I don't know. So let me go to my crypto portfolio and put this number here. Have a lot of money still sitting on the sidelines. Okay, so let's go to Vertcoin and then we'll go through some charts. And I don't think the initial selling pressure is over yet. I could be wrong. I could have got IOTA as cheap as $1.70. Ugh. 142. Golem back to my entry price. 26. ZRX interesting at these levels. 59. Neo is one of my favorite. I don't have that much money in it, but I do like Neo. 7706. So I can already see that the P&L is starting to go a little bit higher. Nimic up Hush 152. Nano 923. Black Cat 78. Verge, EMC2 is probably around the same. Agorist is around the same. 8 share. Oh, 8 share. Ah! I wanted to buy more of it at 5. Should have, could have, didn't. Binance. $9.96. Agorist hasn't moved. AGI. It's going to add AGI at 17. It's up to 20. Okay, and then the last one is Pivx. 429. So I probably should have added to some stuff and I didn't. As you can see here, P&L is, I'm still down 31,000, but I did get a big portion overnight. And I talked about it. I knew Bitcoin was higher overnight, so I knew my P&L was higher. So I made about, you know, I was down, but I made about 6,600 overnight. So 6,600 overnight. So P&L, you know, still down in the year, but I made 6,600. Let me just make sure everything's updated here. I think everything's within. Okay, so levels, I'm gonna be looking back to the downside here. I wanna get back into some more 8 share. I'm gonna look to buy 8 share around the 550 level. So 550 and lower, guys, I'm gonna be looking to buy 8 share. Okay, 550 and lower, I'm gonna be looking to buy 8 share. Pivx, if I can get into Pivx around 375 or lower, I will look to buy some of that. And then AGI, I'll be looking to add at around 18 cents. So these are levels I'm looking at, guys. I will look to add about $20,000 total, which is about $7,000 per coin. And I think as the more that we see government regulation, the more that we see, you know, a lot of basically, how do I say this? A lot of uncertainty. The more I think I realize this is gonna be a long haul. Okay, if you're, you know, maybe in September you'll be able to get a 10x in a week, in a month. I just don't think it's gonna be like that anymore. Okay, I think there's opportunities to hodl down here. I'm gonna be looking at adding to positions, but basically, you know, there are a lot of cryptos that are down. So let's go back in here and go to the market cap. So Bitcoin dominance, let's kind of bring it up in a 7-day and let's see how high it's gotten. So that's all time, 7-day. So this is your 7-day Bitcoin dominance. And you can see it's been pretty stagnant and flat. And this just tells me, you know, Bitcoin is not moving out of realm with stuff. So it is correlated to the whole over market. So Bitcoin really is the S&P. And as it goes higher, what will happen? Okay, the whole market will go higher. So we've gotten down to, you know, maybe 7 days ago, we were at about 42. The high was about 45.5. So we're kind of in this range, you know. I mean, it's unbelievable. If you listen to my sessions or any of our moderator sessions versus what actually happens, and then you go on YouTube and you just go to the YouTube guys and listen to their sessions, they are so bad and they are so wrong. We've now seen Facebook got rid of all cryptocurrency and Bitcoin ads, and so has Google made an announcement that they're getting rid of all their ads. Does that mean that going forward, you're not going to be able to watch YouTube cryptos? That hasn't been announced yet. You might be able to listen to crypto YouTubes. They might just not be able to advertise on there. I don't know the answer to that. So, you know, just keep that in mind, guys, that like the YouTube guys are so bad. like there's something called a troll, and it's someone on the troll. It's just someone on the internet that basically is always wrong and just bothering people. I put stuff on LinkedIn all the time, and people just trolled on me. They're like, "Oh, you've been trading for 15 years," blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, block. I don't even respond anymore. Okay, so you just gotta understand like where your source of information is coming from. You know, the crypto space is so new. There really aren't that many good people on there. If you want to watch a really good interview, Tom Lee on CNBC, he's really good. He was on CNBC yesterday. I'm sure you can probably actually go into CNBC. I really respect him. Brian Kelly's okay. I think he's okay. And then you put in Tom Lee. Let's see if it comes up. So this is a really good one. I'll put the link in here for you guys. I usually never put any links in here because I don't like you guys to leave and go to the website.
Another beautiful day for
interview with Tom Lee. He's really good in this space. So you just got to understand like where your source of information is coming from. And you know, this is why I brought Mark, Jonathan, and Dan on board, because I respect all their knowledge in the cryptocurrency space. Okay, so let's go back in here. And we're going to send out a survey. We might go back to the Coin Mastery series. I'm not sure. I think we've gotten through the top 50 names, but I'm not 100% sure. So I have to spend a couple hours trying to gather all that information, because unfortunately, you know, when I'm managing a team of 18 people, it gets stuff gets slipped through the cracks, as we say. So as we see here, let's go to top gainers and see if there's anything here. Gainers and losers. So Icon, I've actually heard of Icon. I don't necessarily know what it does, but Icon. Let's keep going. I know Mr. S was just talking about CS. Credits. Bitcoin X, no. Red Pulse I've heard of. I'm not sure what it does. So in the top, 30 of the gainers, the only one I've heard of is Icon. I have heard of Icon. I don't know exactly what it does. This is why the Coin Mastery would be so good. And then I go in here. I feel like I've heard, no, I may have heard of Triple. Losers. Hollywood Coin. I like the name of that though. I don't see anything. Quantum I know. Quantum down. But you actually look at it here, like this is one of the biggest losers. One of the biggest losers down 2%. These are usually all like 10 plus. So that's kind of what I look at here. And then let's go into look at some charts on TradingView. And we'll see if anything's changed. So the first thing that I've kind of talked about for a while, I want to look at Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And I want to show the massive underperformance of Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And say, hey, is there maybe a bottom here? And so Ethereum versus Bitcoin. So look at this, guys. And what we can do here on the bottom right, which is really cool, you can change this to a percentage. And this percentage will then show you a percentage instead of a dollar amount, which is easier to read. Okay. So here is Ethereum versus Bitcoin. We talked about the underperformance here. Okay. So here's the zero line. So if you have a zero line on a Ethereum Bitcoin chart, that just means for every dollar Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum goes up $1. So every dollar Ethereum goes up, Bitcoin goes up $1. Okay, that's what that means. If we're underperforming, okay, so I have to do the math in my head, but that means basically if Bitcoin goes up $1, okay, then Ethereum would only go up 70 cents. And this would actually be a dollar weighted average, actually. So let's redo that. That was actually wrong as I think about the math in my head. Okay, if Bitcoin goes up, not dollar amount, if Bitcoin goes up 10%, okay, so if Bitcoin goes up 10%, then Ethereum, since it's negative 30, is only going to go up 77%. So I was a little bit wrong on that as I did the math in my head. It wasn't one-to-one. Okay, so we always talk about correlation in the market. There is going to be correlation where, if we're at the plus 30, that means back here, every 10% Bitcoin go higher, Ethereum would go up 13%. But right now, Ethereum's massively underperforming. So I think on a relative scale, Ethereum's cheap. So what does that mean? That means one of a couple things need to happen. Either Ethereum needs to go up versus Bitcoin, Bitcoin needs to go down. But I think this correlation between these two is overdone and gets to the zero. There's a lot of hedge funds that they do something called pair trades. Okay, a pair trade is you buy one against selling another. I don't pair trade, okay? But I think this would, if you're very aggressive and you're a sophisticated trader, I think this is an opportunity to pair trade Ethereum versus Bitcoin. So you get long Ethereum and you would short Bitcoin. And I could actually do that on my own account. And maybe I will do that really, really small. So I would short a Bitcoin future, and then I would buy equal dollar amount of Ethereum. So let's say Bitcoin is $8,000. Okay, 9,000. Sorry. So $9,000. So the way I would do this trade, this is called a pair trade. Okay, Ethereum's we'll say 550. And a lot of hedge funds guys do this, taking advantage of this correlation being out of whack. So I would short Bitcoin. And the only way I know how to short Bitcoin is on the futures market. So I would short Bitcoin and I would short $9,000 worth. And then what I would do here is I would go in here and I would take 9,000, okay? I have to move this. 9,000 divided by the total price of Ethereum, which is about 16. So what I would do on a pair trade, if I like the setup, I would short, okay, so I'd short Bitcoin, and I would do a one lot, okay, one lot is gonna be $9,000. On an equal dollar amount, okay, which is about 16.2, I would buy Ethereum. So I buy Ethereum, I think it's about 550, okay? My goal is to get back to the zero line, okay? And there used to be something when I was on the trading floor, you could trade the Brent crude spread, or you could trade gold silver spread. This is something I call the Ethereum Bitcoin spread, okay? The difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, okay? Right now it's 16.2 to 1, okay? I think that number needs to go back up about 5-fold, okay? I think that number needs to go back. So if it got back to this number, that'd be 30%. So 30% of 16, I think it should get back to about 21 to 1, okay? And I don't think there's a chart where I can find this. So on this, guys, this is really, really sophisticated stuff. If you do not understand this at all, do not feel bad. It's something you probably shouldn't necessarily understand. But this is a spread on Ethereum Bitcoin. I think Ethereum's overdone proportionally to Bitcoin, okay? There's nowhere I don't know that you can buy Ethereum versus Bitcoin. So what you would do is you create a pair trade, which you would short Bitcoin, okay? So $9,000. And with that, you'd go buy Ethereum, okay? And you're buying it on a ratio of 16 to 2. You're hoping this negative 30%, which is underperforming right now, gets back to zero, okay? If that number gets back to zero, you're basically gonna make 5 Ethereums, okay? Or 2,500 bucks. Could this correlation continue to drop? Could Ethereum go 10 to 1? Yeah, it could. But I don't think it is. I think we're very, very close for the bottom of Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Does anybody have any questions about this? Because this is really, really high-level sophistication stuff. We'll call it stuff. Okay, cool. So let's just look at a couple more charts here. And I flagged a lot of these guys for you the other day. You know, Ripple, USD. Let's go back to dollar amount. So Ripple USD here. So Ripple. And just, I'll kind of track it every single day, just so you guys know. So I'll track it every single day and see, hey, was AK right? At 16.2, I like Ethereum versus Bitcoin, okay? And I don't know where Ethereum is. Actually, I'd rather get a more accurate price on Ethereum. So Ethereum's 578. So you just take this and divide it out. So 9093, so let's get the exact number here. 9093 divided by 578. So it's 15.7 right now. So the 16.2, don't take that one, guys. 15.7. 15.7. And I think it can get to 10 to 1. Okay. So here's Ripple USD. It's still on that, counter trend reversal long. I talked about buying Ripple at 68. Stop loss at 48. Target at 88. You'd be up a very, very, very small amount. So Ripple really not moving. I actually saw some movement in Litecoin, so let's go look at Litecoin. Litecoin here. Litecoin, we talked about buying not the first bar, okay? Never want to buy the first reversal bar. Usually most reversals don't work, but you could have bought it there around 164. Your stop would have been 134. Okay, so 164 is the buy. The stop loss was 134. Okay, and your target, if you're risking 30, would be make 30, which is 194. So technically, this is kind of similar to my trading today. You would be up money, but you wouldn't have taken a profit target because it didn't get to the 194. Okay. As we see here, we're starting to see buying pressure on the hourly bar, but we're not getting this on a multiple time frame analysis. This is why I don't think the bottom is in. Let's go to the 2 hour, 3 hour, and then the daily. Does that work? Okay, so we are starting to see buying pressure on hourly, 2 hour, 3 hour. We're just not seeing it on the daily chart. So we are getting confirmation on 3 of the 4 time frames. So we are starting to have short-term buying pressure, but we are not starting to have long-term buying pressure still. There's a theory out there on the YouTube that caused the SEC, Ethereum has already crashed. In my opinion, Ethereum has crashed. I mean, like we said, it's underperforming Bitcoin so much, it has crashed already, in my opinion. All right, guys, so that is it for my session today. Hopefully this was, this is way different than I usually do. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. Thank you, guys. Mark should jump on here in a minute. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.